If you're having one of those days where everything just feels hard, kids need you, the house needs you, your phone won't stop buzzing, you're carrying 1,000 little invisible responsibilities, and you thought this was going to be a chill time, and somehow everything is just ramping up in busyness, come sit down on the floor with me. You might find yourself thinking, why am I struggling so much? Why can't I handle this better? Shouldn't I be okay by now? Maybe you've even been Googling things lately like overwhelmed mom burnout, why does motherhood feel so hard? And if that's where you are right now, I want you to hear this from someone sitting right next to you in the floor, not standing above you. It makes sense. Really. It makes sense that you're overwhelmed, that you're tired. It makes sense that you're carrying emotional overwhelm. It makes sense if you don't feel like yourself anymore. It makes sense if you're going through an identity shift after motherhood and wondering where the version of you that you used to love, wondering where she is. Because motherhood asks so much of us, not just physically, not just mentally, but emotionally, spiritually, relationally. It changes us. And yet so many of us are moving through this transformation, believing that if we're struggling, we must be doing something wrong. Or if we're struggling time after time, maybe not consistently, we're finding beautiful moments in there. We're trying not to take advantage of this wonderful time because there are those moments that are just precious and you want to do what everyone says, don't blink, but it is hard. It doesn't mean it's bad. It's just very challenging. And so it makes sense, but it's not because something is wrong, as if this pain of the struggle is failure, as if overwhelm means that we're not trying hard enough, as if exhaustion means that we need a better plan or to be a better planner, as if grief means that somehow we've messed this whole thing up. But what if that's not true? What if some of what you're feeling isn't evidence that something has gone wrong? What if it actually makes perfect sense? I've been thinking a lot lately about how uncomfortable our culture is with pain. The moment that something hurts, we immediately want to fix it instead of listen to it. What is the message that it has for us? But no, let's fix it. Let's escape it. Let's solve it. Let's optimize it. Let's think our way out of it. And I get it. I really get it. I do it too. But sometimes I wonder if what's keeping us stuck in the pain isn't the pain itself, but like our resistance to it, the belief that we shouldn't be feeling it. Because now we're carrying two things, the overwhelm and the shame about the overwhelm, the grief and the feeling that we should be over it, the exhaustion and the story that everyone is handling it better than we are. That is a heavy load for one person to be carrying all of that. And maybe that's why so many of us are feeling stuck. We've got this big load of all these paradoxical feelings and doubling the suffering. I heard once that the root of all suffering is either, and I mean, like who knows, but this just always stuck with me. The root of all suffering is because either something is happening that shouldn't be happening or something isn't happening that should be happening. And it just makes me wonder in these situations if this is exactly what should be happening. This is hard. We should be struggling. This is an overwhelming season of life. Not because we're broken, not because we're failing, but because we've been fighting reality every step of the way, fighting how we're actually feeling, fighting the discomfort and maybe the pain of the struggle and the overwhelm and all the things going on in our lives, fighting the struggle itself, resisting all those things themselves, thinking that it should be better, we should be handling it better, trying to argue with feelings that actually make sense, just trying to convince ourselves that we shouldn't be where we are, when maybe the first step isn't fixing it. Maybe the first step is actually just acknowledging it. This is hard. This season is asking a lot of me. It makes sense that I feel this way because something happens when we stop arguing with reality. We create space to actually hear what the storm, the chaotic storm that we're in, is trying to tell us. And I'm learning that not every storm needs the same thing. Sometimes it needs rest. Sometimes it needs a good cry. Sometimes it needs witnessing. Sometimes it needs support. Sometimes it needs a solid boundary. Sometimes it just needs perspective. Sometimes it needs the action. The goal isn't learning one perfect response. The goal is learning how to meet yourself and honestly ask with compassion and honesty, what does this storm need from me right now? And to actually listen for an answer and not try to think your way through it. Not what Instagram says it needs, not what some expert says it needs. You are the expert. That's hard to understand that I'm the expert. What? I know, but also not what the version of you from 5 years ago would have done. What does this storm need that you're in right now? What does it need from you? Maybe today isn't about fixing the storm. Maybe today is about finding the eye. Because underneath so much of motherhood overwhelm is a woman trying very hard. A woman carrying more than what most people carry. A woman moving through one of the biggest transformations of her life. And maybe that's what matrescence really is. Not becoming a perfect mother, but learning how to stay connected to yourself while everything else is changing. And learning who yourself actually is. Learning how to come home to yourself again and again and again. And learning that finding yourself again isn't about becoming who you were before. It's about meeting who you're becoming now. So if motherhood feels hard right now, if you're overwhelmed, if you are exhausted, if you're feeling stuck in motherhood, if you lost yourself in motherhood and aren't sure where to begin, I really hope you hear this. You do not need to earn compassion before receiving it. You do not need to prove that you are struggling enough. And you do not need to justify every feeling that you have. It makes sense. It really does. And from one woman in the storm to another, nothing has gone wrong. You are becoming. Find the eye. And the better it gets, the better it gets. This has been another echo from the eye of the storm within. I'll see you next time.